Hey, Kelly, how's it going, man?
Good, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Hey, when you were a little kid and first, second, third grade, fourth grade, elementary, growing up, how when you came home from school, be like what 3 o'clock or so?
Yeah, 3:30.
What'd you do? I know you've already established that you used to play with your off-brand video game console.
And television, yes.
Oh, well, what take me through like what you would do. You get home.
Okay. Latchkey kid, come in. My mom and dad were both at work. Maybe my sister was with me. Maybe she wasn't. Depended on because I was a little older. So if we were in a different school, she might not have been there. First thing I do is go to the kitchen, see if we have any ice cream, see if we have any snacks. Get that, and then a lot of times I would watch Good Times. I liked watching like that came on like pretty much perfect timing for watching that.
Sure.
And then after that, I'd eat my little snack. I'd usually go outside and play for a while. Go see what my friends were up to. And then my parents would come home and they'd call me in and we'd have dinner, do homework, go to bed.
Yeah, so kind of the same. I'd come home and I'd latchkey kid, or my key around my neck like a little necklace. I'd come in and I'd get one piece of sliced the American, Kraft American slice,
yeah,
and a banana. That was my go-to.
That was your snack.
And then I'd do kind of the same thing. I'd maybe watch the Monkeys,
Okay.
or the Brady Bunch or whatever.
Yeah.
And do kind of the same thing. Maybe go outside. I was telling my wife the other day, when I remember my childhood, for some reason, I remember a lot of it is spent in the woods for some reason. I don't know if you had that same, I'm like, why are we in the woods? And she had the same thing, but I don't want to talk about that. About once a month, I'd flip on the TV and I'd be captivated by the ABC Afterschool Special.
Oh, wow. Okay. You didn't really plan for it. It just happened.
Actually, I was the type that planned for it. Like I would know this stuff was coming out. It came about once a month during the school year. So about 6 to 8 times a year.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are younger than me and Kelly, ABC Afterschool Special was this odd thing where once a month on the ABC station
network
at around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, not prime time, but definitely after you get home from school, they would show
before the news.
Oh yeah, they would show like a drama with usually had stars from other shows that were big at the time, or movie stars, or just up and coming people, but big names for us at the time, like people that kids knew. And they would show these very melodramatic episodes about controversial, sometimes topics, things that maybe some teenagers were going through, and it would be completely geared towards us. We would be the top. We wouldn't watch it with our parents.
Yeah.
And somehow they got us to watch these things, super cheesy, like by today's standards. And I think even at the time we knew they were cheesy, but everyone watched them.
So I didn't really. I don't think I would ever, like, basically I would, if the Brady Bunch was on, or Good Times, or the Jeffersons, or Laverne and Shirley, or Happy Days, some syndicated sitcom, I would watch that, but I never really watched the after school specials. Maybe that's what's wrong with me.
Yeah, you never got the lessons. I was into it, and they always felt like a big deal. So let me tell you a little bit about the ABC After School Specials.
And it was specific to ABC, the network?
Yeah, it was called the ABC After School Special.
Okay.
Now, I know you didn't watch them, but you definitely heard of them, right?
Sure, yeah.
I
saw the ads.
Reputation and the tropes.
Yeah.
The very first one came out in 1972.
Okay.
So this is before I would have been watching it. And the very last one was 1997.
Wow.
Way after
Long run.
I would have watched it.
Yeah.
Long run. And every single year, continuously. So the first episode was called The Last of the Curlews. And that was about It was animated, actually. That was about a father and son who go hunting and debate whether or not to kill a curlew, which is like a bird that was about to be extinct. It's now is extinct.
Okay. Wow.
So I guess they made the wrong choice there.
Yes.
And then like the next one was about, the Underground Railroad. And it was just, and as we got further down the line, they became kind of more, they hit their stride and they would deal with themes that, kids would have to kind of come up with. So I've got the list here. I could read you some titles and you could tell me maybe what the
theme
episode was about. Yeah.
Sure. Go ahead.
1973, I want to tell you about one that was called Rookie of the Year. And that was starring Jodie Foster, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
Remember,
wow.
she was a child actor.
Yeah.
She was an 11-year-old girl who joined her brother's Little League team. Now, the year before, 1972, was when girls were allowed to be on Little League teams.
Okay.
So that was kind of a big deal. So these were all ripped from the headlines,
Like Title IX stuff.
Sure. There's one in 1973 called My Dad Lives in a Downtown Hotel. What do you think that one's about?
I think that's basically Different Strokes, right? About two boys that get adopted by a rich man who lives in a penthouse. No,
this one was about like separation and divorce. About my dad doesn't live in our house anymore.
Okay.
1976, Blind Sunday.
Oh, this is about a family that makes ice cream sundaes, and one of the people can't see, so he always makes them wrong.
No. In order to better understand his blind girlfriend, teenager Jeff spends an entire day blindfolded.
Okay. That's riveting.
These are the kind of things, 45 minutes, I'd be riveted. How about 1977, My Mom's Having a Baby?
Okay. I have no idea what that's about.
It's about the birds and the bees, man. Mom's having the baby.
Oh.
And he wants to know how it happened. There was a sequel in 1980 called Where Do Teenagers Come From? That was all about puberty.
Okay.
There was one in 1978 called It's a Mile from Here to Glory. It was about a teenager that was in a car accident and became disabled. That one starred a young Anthony Kiedis.
Wow. Okay. Wow. He's
singer for the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah. Hollywood all the way.
So 1979, I remember this one well, called Make Believe Marriage. And it was about some kids. And I think they actually did this in a lot of high schools. I don't know if it was before or because of this episode, where they took a class on marriage and they would pair up the kids and they would have to do like everyday things that married life couples, just to teach you about like domestic partnership and what that was all about.
Huh. You saw that one, huh? You actually watched that one?
I remember that one well. Yeah. There was one, I watched them all, man. 1980, there was one called Stoned.
Oh, this was about somebody in Jesus's time who had cast the first stone.
You're not very good at this. This one starred Scott Baio.
Okay.
As a motivated high schooler until
he gets stoned
with marijuana and falls in with a fast crowd.
Or the slow crowd, dude.
Then 1987, this was one of the most notorious kind of worst episodes. And this is kind of where I was off I was in college by then, so I wasn't really into this, but this is known as kind of one of the worst.
When they jumped the shark, so to speak.
Sure. This was called The Day My Kid Went Punk. It was about a teenage musician, Terry, hopes to distinguish himself from the crowd by becoming a punk rocker, starring Bernie Kopell from The Love Boat. And the thing is, they weren't able to use real like punk rock music, so they had to use like
music,
copyrighted, music versions of punk rock, or what grandmas thought punk rock would have been like.
Wow.
And the who had a pink mohawk and an earring, like a safety pin, earring, kind of like
Wait,
you did back in the day.
was Bernie Capel? Was he Doc?
He was Doc, yeah.
Okay, and was he
Wasn't
was he the kid or the father?
he wasn't the kid. I think he was one of the parents.
Wow.
But yeah, they got more and more kind of ridiculous. Or Daddy Can't Read.
I mean, that's pretty obvious.
Michael Jackson was in that one as himself. This was 1988. There's one called Tattle, When to Tell on a Friend.
Okay.
It was about 4 inseparable friends on their high school swim team until 2 of them experiment with cocaine and get hooked.
Whoa.
There's one called Just Tipsy, Honey.
Okay.
About a mother who had a drinking problem.
All right.
And it was always from the teenager's, point of view. My Dad Can't Be Crazy, Can He? It's about schizophrenia.
Okay.
But then you'd have one called All That Glitters. Several high school students learn about ethics versus seductive power when they start a cookie company as their class project, starring William H. Macy.
Huh.
So a lot of these people right on the way up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Adam Sandler was in one in 1990 called
Wow.
Testing Dirty, as a competitive swimmer that was taking amphetamines or tested positive for amphetamines. They tackled things like teen pregnancy, but I was from a very safe point. There was one called I Want to Keep My Baby in 1976, where it was a teenage girl that got pregnant and decided to keep the baby, but they never once mentioned abortion in the show.
Okay.
Even though they did, but they didn't, right?
Pretty conservative themes.
But at the time, they were talking about things that nobody was talking about.
Right.
So from that perspective, it wasn't conservative, but the way they handled it was, yeah. There was one called A Very Delicate Matter. What do you think that was about?
Maybe about telling somebody something that you like, telling a secret.
What was the secret?
I don't know.
It was gonorrhea, Kelly. A teenage girl contracts a sexually transmitted disease from her boyfriend. That was a big deal. And that was 1982. That was a delicate matter, man.
Yeah. And itchy too.
Sure. So yeah, I mean,
from bitchy to itchy. That's what they should have called it.
That's what. Yeah, we could do.
Subtitle.
There was. Yeah, I mean, they touched on all kinds of different things, but there were some things they never touched on. Like they never once had, there was 20 years of episodes. They never once touched on any gay or queer themes ever. That was something that I think was
they were afraid of,
a bridge too far, right? Again, they never really touched on abortion, even though they touched on teen pregnancy. There was never any episodes though that got boycotted, or I thought for sure that when I started researching this, I would find that, the Memphis station or the
right, they wouldn't play
Alabama wouldn't play it. That never happened. Because I think they were always walking that line, and typically they were probably done with psychologists and all kinds of adults, overseeing these scripts. Scott Baio was in a ton of these. That was kind of his
sweet spot. Sure.
In fact, all the Happy Days stars did their little parts. Marion Ross was in a bunch of these.
Oh yeah, it's always the mom.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the girls from Facts of Life. Would be on these shows.
Blair and Tootie.
There were people that would be recognizable to you at the time, and be like, "Wow, that's a good get."
Nancy McKeon.
Nancy McKeon was definitely in some of these. She was in one particular one called "Please Don't Hit Me, Mom" in 1983.
Oh,
that was actually nominated for Outstanding Children's Program in the Emmy Awards. It was about child abuse.
Yeah. Wow. Heavy.
So it was always these kind of very special episode. And like I say, I was into it. I was just into the fact that they were usually talking about something that we weren't allowed to talk about, or something that was a little out there,
a little taboo.
Yeah, and the cool part was I was watching it by myself. Like, it wasn't part of the family lineup, and being an only child, I was all into it.
Didn't have to be embarrassed.
It didn't feel taboo, but I was never really satisfied at the end of these things. I always thought, oh, I could have done that better.
Yeah.
Or that was a stretch for Scarabeo. But then the month later, I'd forget about my criticism and I'd go watch it right back and watching them. And the funny part is I never remember comparing. Like I said, everyone watched them. I think they got pretty good ratings, but I think this is the first time I've ever talked about it with anybody.
I've never seen any of those. I'm familiar with them, but I never actually watched any of those. That would have just, I don't know. I feel like that would have just been way too preachy for me.
Well, because you would have had to watch it with your sister. And so imagine me being home by myself, thinking I was on a real gold mine here.
I'm going to be so smart and well-rounded. Thanks, ABC.
Yeah. I mean, I knew about gonorrhea before you did, Kelly.
Well, that's because you got it, right?
All right, man. Well, that's ABC Afterschool Special. Take care.
It's something that used to be here, and now it's gone.
Gone forever.
Gonorrhea.